for everyone listening, could you give a just quick, simple background, like you're talking to, like a kid, to explain how the Lightning Network works and why it's important? And then later we can go into some of the interesting things that this could be used for.
I mean, at a very high level, the Lightning Network is the means through which Bitcoin becomes a medium of exchange. Like, I don't believe Bitcoin will be used in day-to-day transactions unless the Lightning Network becomes a success. So again, at a high level, the Lightning Network makes Bitcoin transactions next to free and instant. I mean, that's basically all the lay person needs to know about the Lightning Network. And then, that's what I'd tell a 6-year-old. What I'd tell like a 14-year-old or a 20-year-old is like, I would get them to imagine a bar or a situation where you have a tab, right? So you walk into a bar and you open a tab, and it's much more efficient for you to open the tab at the beginning of the night and pay the tab at the end of the night. Instead of like you buy 10 or 12 drinks in the night and you pay every single time, that's 12 transactions. And that's inefficient for you. You want to go and spend time with your friends and hang out at the table, right? You don't want to have to go and pay after every drink or after every piece of food you ordered. So the Lightning Network is a multitude of tabs, essentially. And like, let's just take one tab as an example. I walk into the bar, I open the tab. I can actually pay the bartender as many times as I want, and the bartender can actually pay me as well. So money is free to slide from me to the bartender, and then back from the bartender to me, as long as like if I open the tab for $100, we can slide $50 to the bartender, $50 back to me. At the end of the night, I pay the tab, and that's essentially the base fundamentals of how the Lightning Network works. Just imagine many, many, many tabs forming a nice fabric of these channels. They're called channels. I think that there's something like 25,000 channels on the Lightning Network now. We're in exponential increase, and that's really exciting too, because with every channel, the whole thing gets stronger.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think a lot of people who aren't within the Bitcoin ecosystem actually criticize Bitcoin for, because they say, oh, well, the transaction fees are high, or it's slow, or you're not going to ever use Bitcoin to pay for things or medium of exchange just because of these technical limitations. And what you just explained, which I'd actually never heard that example with like the bar tab. And I think that that's actually a great way to explain it, where you don't necessarily need every single transaction in the entire world in the future to be routed through the Bitcoin network.
Right.
Those can be done on a layer 2, like the Lightning Network.
And like, it's important to understand that, Will, if you and I have a channel, we're actually just keeping track of who owes who what, just between you and I. Like, we actually don't need to talk to the Bitcoin network and broadcast our transactions, every transaction on the base chain. A, because that would be expensive, and B, because it just bloats the chain with additional data that doesn't really make sense. Like, if you and I are in an entrepreneurial engagement with one another, and we actually are. I mean, like, I work for Saz Mining, so like, let's just imagine that Saz Mining is paying me on the Lightning Network, and okay, I get my salary. And then I might want to buy a rig on the Lightning Network. So I'd slide some of that salary back to you. We're still only talking about one transaction, one Bitcoin transaction on chain to open that channel for like 10,000 USD, right? Then I slide some back to you. Let's say I slide 8,000 USD back to you, USD worth of Bitcoin back to you to buy 4 rigs from you. And then another salary comes in, and then that Bitcoin comes back to me. We're still only talking about one Bitcoin transaction that was on chain, and that was to open the channel. And then, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I move on to a different company to work for someone else. Great. Everything's all fine and dandy. And we close that channel. And then at that point in time, that kind of closes our entrepreneurial engagement with one another. And meanwhile, how many transactions took place within our channel? It could be dozens, it could be hundreds, it could be thousands of transactions that took place within our channel between us. It's like, that's ultra efficient actually at that point in time. So it actually bugs the crap out of me when someone's like, how one Bitcoin transaction costs as much electricity as like it takes to run a house for 4 days or whatever it is, whatever the latest stat is. It's like, well, actually, you're ignoring so much nuance here. It's impossible to measure how many transactions actually took place within one on-chain transaction now because of the existence of the Lightning Network. It's like we miss that detail sometimes.
Yeah. So when we're talking, and you mentioned it actually, so the growth of the Lightning Network, I think that this is something where I haven't been paying attention to it like in depth the way that you have. The updates that I've actually been getting in part are coming through your updates and the monthly updates now with the team calls. But in regards to how it's actually growing, how many more channels are being opened, do you have any stats that can really share that you can share with people who are listening to understand? Okay, well, this all sounds good in theory, but what's actually happening on the Lightning Network?
Yeah, so I was off when I said 25,000 channels. I just brought up a website. It's called bitcoinvisuals.com/lightning. So there's 75,000 channels, not 25,000.
Oh, wow.
There's 17,000. That was kind of the number I was thinking of. 18,000 nodes on the Bitcoin network. There is 5,500 Bitcoin locked in the Lightning Network. So about $135 million worth of US dollars. There's
Quick,
those are some
actually.
good base stats. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
real
ahead.
quick, you mentioned so 18,000 nodes and then 75,000 channels. Can you just
Yeah.
real quickly define for everyone listening what a node is in simple terms and then what a channel is in simple terms?
Yeah, so a node is it's a Bitcoin full node. So every node on the Lightning Network has a complete copy of the blockchain, and it is a nexus through which Bitcoin can flow. So a node opens channels. They can open as many channels as they like, and after those channels are open, Bitcoin can flow through those channels or flow through that node. So I mean, what's the analogy here?
Well,
It's kind of like an internet service provider or an internet router in like 1991 terms,
mm,
right? Like instead of like these internet service providers letting information flow through them, these Bitcoin node runners or Lightning node runners let value flow through them.
mm.
And like the difference is that in 1991, how many internet service providers did we have? Like a couple dozen worldwide. I actually just don't know, but like it's not 17,000, right? So like the amazing thing about the Bitcoin revolution is like we all have the power to be a bank. Like that's amazing. We can increase the number of value nodes to some arbitrarily large number, and we can increase the number of nodes on the Lightning Network value internet service providers to some arbitrary large number, and those are both really really amazing things.
Yeah, and you're actually speaking from experience because you've been running a node for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, about 2.5 years. Yeah.
And so, what was that process like of actually setting up a node? Because I feel like uh, it's something that's talked about a lot, but the people who uh, talk about it aren't necessarily always like they don't have that understanding that someone who's actually gone through like you and set up a node has gone through. So, can you just like real quick talk about how you set up that node? Even if you want, you could talk about like what prompted you to set it up, and then how much value has actually gone through your node since you've opened it.
Yeah, I mean, I do a number of things with my life, and so I didn't set up a node until it became ultra convenient for me to do so, ultra convenient and simple. Even though I have the technical expertise to start from scratch, I waited until, I guess I was more so prompted to set one up after I learned about a Lightning slash Bitcoin operating system called the Umbrel or Umbrel OS. And Umbrel is a turnkey solution for creating a Bitcoin full node that also can be a Lightning node. And you just simply buy a Raspberry Pi, which is like a tiny little microcomputer. There's like more computational power jam packed into that thing than what we sent to the moon, though, that blows my mind. And
That's
now it's
pretty
like
crazy.
sitting there on my desk and it's running the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and it's a Bitcoin full node. I plugged it in, gave it power, plugged in a 1 terabyte solid state drive. Downloaded the operating system, flashed it onto an SSD card, plugged that in, and then boom, it turns on. It starts synchronizing with the Bitcoin blockchain. It downloads the whole the entire history since 2009 of the Bitcoin blockchain. It sits there on the solid state drive. Then once that's synchronized, you can start opening channels. And I started slow with that. And I recommend others who are new to Lightning also do the same thing, just to get the hang of like, what does it mean to open a channel? Once I open a channel, what does it mean to send a Lightning transaction or to receive a Lightning payment? There's a lot of details there that are quite technical, and even for me, like my weak points as a technical person are in security and in networking, and those happen to be two large components with respect to running the Lightning network, running a node on the Lightning network. But the Umbrel does automate and make some of those details rather simple to get through.
Got it.
Inflation is transitory.